So good morning. Today is April 14th, day before tax day, and 2022, and we are learning Yevamot. Today's daf is daf Lamed Chet. I'm going to share my screen. We are in the middle of 8 cases of inheritance disputes. And we saw yesterday the first 3 disputes, and we've learned a few lessons about how those disputes get resolved. If you have a definite claim, so for example, if we have this fellow named Ben, who is potentially, again, Rachel married Ruvain, then Ruvain dies without any children. Now Rachel is married to Chaim, Ruvain's brother, 2 months after Ruvain died. And of course, it turns out that either she was pregnant or she became pregnant immediately. And now she has Ben 7 months later. And so we're unsure whether Ben's father is Ruvain or Chaim. Now, let's say Chaim has other children, maybe from other wives, whatever. The point is that he has other children. Let's say he has 2 other sons. And so now the question is one of the cases that we dealt with yesterday is what happens if Ben wants to get Chaim's, be part of Chaim's inheritance? Well, his claim is not a definite claim. His claim is an uncertain claim. Whereas, of course, Chaim's other children, where we know that it was Chaim who was the parent, those children have a definite claim. And so we said yesterday, definite beats uncertain. And so as a result, the Ben would receive nothing, and Chaim's other children would split the inheritance. Because the other children would say to Ben, you bring proof, and then you can take your share. And of course, if he can't bring the proof. And we asked yesterday, well, what about DNA evidence? That's actually a fascinating question. And it's moving towards a direction of being accepted for things like inheritance. But it is, it is not certainly universally accepted at this moment yet. And so that is something to keep in mind. It is certainly sufficient to avoid the name, avoid being called a mamzer. It's certainly sufficient to, to help with an aguna situation, but whether or not it would actually make a difference in a monetary case is less clear, and so that there would be a court by court determination and very case by case specific determination as to whether or not DNA evidence would be accepted. So that was the case of a definite beating and uncertain. Now, the other situation that we saw yesterday is when you have 2 uncertain claims. If they're both uncertain, then the inheritance is split. And the example of that was where where Ben and Chaim were arguing over Ruvain's estate, because maybe Ben is Ruvain's son, and so he should get the whole estate. And maybe Ben is Chaim's son, and Chaim is Ruvain's only brother and only surviving brother. And so as a result, Chaim should get the entire estate. When that's the situation, we say that they split it. So those were the 2 situations. And then we had a more complicated situation where part of the inheritance was definite, part was uncertain, and so each piece was essentially calculated separately, and the uncertain piece was divided, but the certain pieces, the pieces that everybody admitted to, were the other side would receive, and so you would only split a piece of the entire pie based on the uncertainty. So those were the first 3 cases, and again, we've got our cases. Ben is the uncertain son, and we've got Chaim is the current wife of Rachel and may be his father, and of course Reuven is the other person who may be his father. So now we've got the case number 4. Case number 4. We are 14 lines up. Third word on the line is safek. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Safek ubnei Yavam. So if you now have the uncertain, namely Ben, is now arguing with Bnei Yavam, with the children of Chaim, Shebo Lachalak B'nichse Yavam, in order to divide Chaim's estate. So Levasa Depalig Yavam B'nichse Misna. So, but we're now adding a complicating factor. We're adding the fact that Reuven's estate. Remember, we saw that if Reuven and Chaim, if Ben and Chaim were arguing over Reuven's estate, they split it. And so because they split it, so now Chaim owns half of Reuven's estate. And so half of Reuven's estate is part of Chaim's estate. So now that Chaim has already taken that part of the estate, B'nei Yavam Amram, what do Chaim's children say to Ben? They say, Aiti Raya de Achuna at Ushkol. Listen, as we saw yesterday, bring proof that you are also Chaim's son, and then you can take with us from Chaim's estate. But Amar Lahu, but now Chaim has an additional comment to make, because now Amar Lahu Suffolk, so the Ben has the following comment to make. Manav Shaichu. However you want to decide is fine, but listen, if I'm your brother, Anna, then you should give me a share of Chaim's estate. But if you're telling me that I'm actually the son of Reuven who died, then you need to give me back the portion that Chaim took from my father's estate, right? Because again, Reuven died. Reuven's estate was split between Chaim and Ben, because Ben didn't have a definite claim and Chaim didn't have a definite claim. They both had uncertain claims. But now Chaim's children are saying that you can't take any piece of our estate, because maybe you are Reuven's child. But the whole reason that Chaim got any of the estate of Reuven is because Chaim said that to Ben that maybe you're my child. And so as a result, we have essentially two inconsistent rulings. So how do we deal with that situation? So that's going to be a debate. Rabbi Abba Amar Rav, Rabbi Abba says in the name of Rav, Kamdina, that we already had that judgment. That judgment about the splitting between Chaim and Ben of Reuven's estate is over. It was done already. There is no opportunity to give to rejudge it, and so that's done. And therefore, the Ben gets nothing in Chaim's estate, because Ben can't bring a proof that he is Chaim's child, whereas Chaim's other children are definitely Chaim's children, and so they have a definite claim that defeats the uncertain claim. Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar Hadardina. No, we reverse the judgment, and Rashi says that either the brothers of Chaim, the Chaim's children, have to decide. Either they're going to treat Ben like their brother, or they're going to treat Ben like Reuven's son. But they can't treat him in half like Ben, like Reuven's son, and half like their brother. They can't effectively say you're going to lose on both counts. You can't. That's not fair. And frankly, I like that answer. I think that answer makes a lot of sense. Okay, so now we're going to try to align this debate with another debate that is in a Mishnah. So lema bepluta de admon v'rabbanan kamiflagi. Maybe we can say that this debate between Rabbi Abba and Rabbi Yirmiyah is actually like the debate between Admon and the Chachamim and the Rabbanan. So Mish the Tanan, because we have a Mishnah, is a Mishnah in Ksuvos that says Misha halach lemedinas hayam v'avdalo derech sadehu. If let's say you have a field, and your field is surrounded by another field, so on all four sides, but you have because when you were given that field, you were given access, a right of way, so to speak, to your field that was in the middle, and now though you go on a trip, and now that right of way becomes lost. We're not sure which side it was on. So Adman Amar Yelech Baksara, that Admon says that we're going to give the person the way, the route, the shortest route to his field. But the Chachamim say no. Yigach lo derech b'meyamana. He can buy it. Oh yifrach ba'avir, or he can fly through the sky, through the air, but he doesn't get it automatically. The Havinanba. Now we asked the question about how these two opinions, what's the specific facts are in the particular case. So lirabanan shaper ka'adman ka'amar admon. We don't understand the rabbis because Admon seems to have a good argument, meaning the person who owns the fields all around, well, of course he should give him access because he had access before. And so Rabbi Yehuda so Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rav, and here's the case. We're going to qualify the case. We're talking about a case where there were four separate property owners on all four sides. So as a result, what was so we don't know which of the property owners should give their right of way, because and so as a result, each of the property owners says the following to the guy who's in the middle, who went on the trip. They say, listen, if you can bring proof that it's in my field, great, I'm happy to do it. But if you don't, then I don't think it was in my field, and so as a result, I shouldn't have to do anything. And since all four of them can say that, none of them, all four of them, he doesn't have a definite claim. So as a result, he's stuck. My time at the Admon. Well, one second. If that were true, why in the world would Admon say that one of them has to give a route? So Rava, Rava clarified further. But arba de asum koach arba. No, the situation is where we have is whether you have four people who got their rights from four, or four people the asum koachad, or four people who derive their rights from a single person. So kuli alma lo pligi dematsu midachile. In those two situations, everybody agrees that now there's no chance to get the path, meaning that the person who traveled is up a creek without a paddle because they don't know which direction to get it from, and nobody he doesn't have a definite claim against any single person. So kuliyama lo pligi dematsu midachile. In all those situations, they can push the guy off and they can say, you don't have a proof that it was on my field, and so don't come crying to me. So keep pligi b'chad de asim mikoach arba. But where do they disagree? They disagree where the four fields that were around the traveler's field are now currently all held by a single owner. The single owner owns all four. So Admon Savar, Matzi Amarlai. So now the person who's in the middle, he can say to him, Mikomakom Darki Gabahu. Look, no matter what, my path is through your land. The Rabbanim Savri, whereas the rabbis think, the Amarlai, Ishat Kat, Shat Kat. If you're quiet, great. Ve'ilo ma'adarna shtara l'marayhu. Then I'm going to return the deeds to their original owners. And since they originally had 4 owners, below matzis l'ishtuya dina ba'adayu, you're not going to be able to make a claim against any of them. So as a result, look, if you want to buy a piece of the land, great. But if you are just going to make arguments and annoy me, I'm just going to return the land to the 4 people, and then you'll be stuck because there's nothing you can do about it. So Lema Rebbe Abba de Amr Karabanan, Rebbe Yirmiyah de Amr Ka'admon. So doesn't it make a lot of sense to say that Rebbe Yirmiyah is like Admon, and Rabbi Abba is like the rabbis, meaning Rabbi Abba had said that that the judgment is over, there's nothing more to do about it, and so too the rabbis say that there's nothing that you can do about the fact that you have that the person in the middle can do about claiming a root to his land from the 4 surrounding fields. Whereas Rabbi Yirmiyah says, no, we got to recognize that there is on some level, a definite claim here that Ben has. And so as a result, just like in the case of Admon, who says that there's a definite claim against the current single owner. So Amar Lach, so in fact, the Gemara rejects this. And Amar Lach Rabbi Abba, Ka'admon, Ana to Amri Afilu Ka'admon. Really, Rabbi Abba could say that I actually even agree with Admon, meaning I don't want both Tanaim could agree with my logic. So why? Ad kan lo ka'amar Admon hasam elamashum de amar le miman afshach. Right. The only reason that Admon says that the person in the middle has a valid claim is because there is a 100% certainty that, and now let's turn to the Lamed Chet Aleph, Darki Chad Gabechu. There's no question that my field is in your property. Aval Hacha. But when it comes to the case of the inheritance, Mi Ika Lamemer Hachi, is there a definite claim? And Rashi says, Halo Yada Mai Tava Mine. The Ben doesn't know what his claim is based on. Is he a shareholder in the brother who died? Or is he a shareholder in the in Chaim's estate? It's only because he has the 2 claims that he comes. And for each of them, according to this approach, according to Rabbi Abba, and according to each of them, the Chaim's other sons can say, listen, bring a proof that you're Reuven's son, bring a proof that you're Chaim's son, and we'll give you whichever piece you deserve. But you don't have a proof that you are either of those, and so you lose out on both fronts. And so now, so that's the problem. And so as a result, Rabbi Abba says that even the Admon could go according to me. Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar Lach, and Rabbi Yirmiyah would similarly say to you, Ana de Amri Afilu Rabbanan. My ruling is consistent even with the rabbis. Ad kan lo kamru Rabbanan Hasam. Why do the rabbis say over there that the person doesn't have to give the root in the land? Elamishum de Amar le ishtak ve'ilo mahadrana shtar marayu, because I have the threat of giving back the deeds to their original owners, in which case in which case you lose. There's a 100% certainty that you lose if I do that. But there's nothing that the brothers can say. There's nothing that Chaim's children can say that would cause Ben to lose out for sure. And so as a result, maybe the rabbis would even say, like Rebbe Yirmiyah. So as a result, that therefore we're not going to be able to make a proof in either direction. So, okay, so now that was all case number 4. That was the most complicated of cases. Now let's go through cases 5, 6, 7, and 8. What about Suffolk the Yavam Shabo Lachalak Benichse Sava? What if Yaakov the grandfather? So we have Yaakov the grandfather. He has the sons Reuven and Chaim. Reuven dies and leaving Rachel his widow. Chaim takes Rachel the widow. Chaim has and then it turns out Rachel is pregnant. We don't know whether it's Reuven's son or Chaim's son, and the result is Ben. And so now Ben and Chaim are both trying to claim the grandfather's estate. Suffolk Amar Hai Gavra Bar Misnahu. The Ben says that I'm the son of the deceased brother. I'm the son of Reuven, and therefore I should get half. Upalga didihu, and therefore half of the estate is mine. Yavam Amar at Braididi at the late Lach Lomidi. I'm your father, and you should get nothing. So Hava Yavam Vadai B'Suffolk Suffolk. So we have the Yavam has a definite, and the while the uncertain one is only uncertain. Being Suffolk Motzi Midei Vadai, and so as a result, the Suffolk cannot take away from the Vadai, and so as a result, the Yavam gets everything, Chaim gets everything, and Ben gets nothing, and so as a result, that is that case. Suffolk uvnei Yavam shebo lachok b'nisei Sava. Now, what happens if it's instead of Chaim and Ben who are arguing? Now it's Chaim's sons and Ben who are arguing about the estate of their grandfather Yaakov. So Suffolk Amar Hu Gavra Bar Misnahu. So again, Ben says, "Listen, I am Reuven's son, Upalga Didihu, and half of the estate belongs to me. Uvnei Yavam Amre Achuna At. You're our brother. And so as a result, you should not get half the estate, but let's say there are two other brothers from Chaim, and so as a result, you should get only 1/3 of the estate." I will ignore for the moment the whole concept of Bechor getting double. Maybe we'll just assume that the oldest was a girl. So as a result, Umanasa Islach Bahadan. And so as a result, you get an equal portion to what we have. So Palga de Kamo de Lahu Shakla. So half of the estate that is certainly belongs to the two brothers, because Ben admits that half of the estate should go through Chaim to his children. And so as a result, Chaim's two children, we'll call them A and B, they each get a quarter based on the fact that Ben admits that they get that half. Okay? And Tulasa Deku Deka Modi Shakal. And both A and B admit that Ben should get at least 1/3, because if he is their brother, Ben would take at least 1/3. So we start with that. We start with that 1/3 and 1/2. So again, A and B split a half, so they each get a quarter, and Ben gets 1/3. Okay. So Pash Lahu Danka, the 1/6 that remains, Havi Mamun Hamuta Basafik B'Cholkin. And so as a result, that 1/6 they divide. And so as a result, Ben starts with 1/3, you add a 6 to it, and I'm sorry, that 1/6 gets split. So Ben gets 1/12 of that, and the A and B get a 1/12 of that, and so ends up Ben. This is a bit of math, right? So Ben starts with 1/3. He adds to that a 1/12. A 1/12 plus 1/3 is equal to 5/12, and then each of the A and B split the remaining 7/12. So each of them gets 7/24. So that would be the math if we were talking about two brothers of two other sons of Chaim. So that is case number 6. Now, case number 7. Case number 7, again, we have Yaakov and the grandfather, but here, Safek uvnei Yavam shebo lachalak b'nichsei Saba. So now we have Sava v'Yavam b'nichsei Safek. Now we have Chaim and Yaakov arguing about the estate of Ben. Ben has died, and now his potential father, and his definite grandfather are arguing. Osava v'Safek b'nichsei Yavam, or you could say that we're talking about the Saba, the grandfather, and Ben arguing about the estate of Chaim, where Chaim has no other children. Well, in all those cases, in both of those cases, each one is a case of all or nothing, and so as a result, all of the money gets split and it gets divided evenly. Okay, so those are the 8 cases of inheritance. Well, now that we've discussed inheritance and we're ready to go back to our Mishnah, now we're going to discuss inheritance in connection with Chalitza and Yibum, and specifically, we're going to pick up with the topic of Zika. As a reminder, Zika is the relationship that exists between a woman, the widow or widows of Ruvain, after Ruvain died with no children. And sorry, Mike.
I just wanted to clarify about the previous thing. When we said that it's Safek, that would be Mamona Mutal b'Safek v'Holkin. So when we had the case of Ben and Chaim's children splitting Chaim's estate, we said that Ein Safek Motzi Midei Vadai, right?
Correct.
But
that's because
why
Chaim's children have a vadai claim to Chaim's estate.
But why can't you say, why wouldn't you say, let's say there's 2 children. So so why wouldn't you say that Chaim's children have a vadai claim to 2/3, and then Ben is trying to claim 1/3, and that 1/3 is mutal b'safek, so you split it.
Because Chaim, that's an excellent question, but that is the concept of you have to have some piece that is being admitted to you in order to split the suffix. If you have a vadai claim for part of it, and the other person might get nothing, then it is not considered that situation. And so here, because Ruvain could get nothing, Ben could get nothing, because if Ben is Ruvain's son, he gets nothing. So as a result, we do not say that let's just go with what Ruvain admits then Chaim's children get, and what Ben admits Chaim's children get, and therefore start with 2/3 and split the remaining 1/3. We do not say that, because only one of them has a definite right. Only the Chaim's children have a definite right, and so we say a definite beats suffix. Okay, you have to have only suffix on both sides in order to split, or if you have definite with respect to a piece and then suffix with respect to the rest, then you can also work, right? So that was the situation where Ben and Chaim's sons were arguing over Yaakov's estate. When they argue over Yaakov's estate, they both have definite claims to at least something, And so as a result, then you will put the rest of it and split. But when one of them starts with 0 and another one starts with something, we say, no, the one who starts with something gets everything, and it's on the obligation is on the one who starts with nothing to prove that they have anything. Okay, great. All right, so now again, so we're going to go to the next Mishnah, and our next Mishnah is going to reintroduce this topic of Zika. Again, Zika is where after Reuven dies and he leaves over Rachel and potentially other widows, those widows have a relationship, a Zika relationship with Reuven's brothers. And the question is that a relationship that has any relevance for inheritance? That's going to be the question that we're going to deal with. So Shomeres Yavam, we have a woman who is waiting to have Yibum or Chalitza performed with her. Shenaflu la nechasim, and now she inherits some property. Modim beis Shammai u beis Hillel shemocheres v'nosenes v'kayam. When she's alive, everybody agrees that her property is hers and she could do whatever she wants with it. She's not married. Nobody's controlling her. She is able to do whatever she wants. Mesa, now if she dies and she still has not had Yibum or Chalitza, Maya ksubasa, what happens to her ksuba? Meaning that is the obligation that the husband has to his, the husband has if he dies to his wife, and now that is a piece of the inheritance. And what happens to the property that goes in and out of the marriage with her? That's the property that the husband has the right to the fruit of the property while they are married. But but if she leaves the marriage, she takes that property with her. So Beit Shammai says, Yochaloku Yorshei Abal im Yorshei Ha'av. So the wife's father and the wife's husband's brothers or other inheritors, they split the estate. You sum up the ksuva and the other properties, and then they both get divided. That's our we'll start with that understanding of it. Beit Hillel says no. Nechasim v'ches kasan, those all properties stay where they are. Ksuba v'ches kas yorshei abal, the ksuba is in the possession of the husband's heirs because they are the ones who have the obligation to give her the funds for the ksuba. And the property that goes in and leaves with her, it goes to her family. So what happens now if they actually got married? Nasa, if in fact Chaim marries Rachel, so Harehi ki-ishto l'chol davar, she's like his wife for everything. However, the ksuba obligation goes to the estate of the first husband. Now, we'll explain what that means in the Gemara. Not today, but in the future. So, Maishna Reisha Delo Pligi. So, what's the difference between the first case where they don't argue and the second case where they do argue? Why is it that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel all agree that she has complete control, but in the second case they split on how the things get divided? Because if in fact everything is in her control and she now dies, so then shouldn't it all go to her father's estate? So Amar Ula, or at least, at the very worst, it should all stay where it is, like Beis Hillel says. So what's the logic of Beis Shammai? So we're going to have three different answers to this question, but only two of them will we be able to cover today. So answer number one, Amar Ula, Actually, we're going to be talking about two different cases. Reisha denafla kishehi arusa. In the first case, it's where she became a yevamah only after erisin was done, not after nisuin was done. And so as a result, all that had happened was the kedushin. And so as a result, she is more independent. And we'll see why, what that means in a moment. The seva denafla kishehi nesua. Whereas in the second case, we're talking about where she was already fully married. And take a look at Rashi, kishehi nesua, tokach reisha delagabi arusa mamish, where it was just an engaged kaimalan lebeis shammai timkor. That then Beis Shammai says that she can sell whatever she wants because it's non lekaman. Kol shekain zu she'ena ela zakuka ba'alma. Right. So certainly this woman who is doesn't even have a zika for an actual marriage, but rather it's a zika just for an erisin. So that's why she can sell. The Beis Hillel, the Amri Ba'arusa, Vadai Lo Timkor, L'chatchila Abal Im Machra V'Nasla. So let's, this Rashi is actually going to be easier to understand after we do the Gemara. So let's take a look in the Gemara, and hopefully that'll clarify things. Second. Okay, yeah, let's take a look. We'll take a look we'll go further in the Gemara. Because Savar Ula. So what's the logic? How does this actually help us understand Beis Shammai better? So Zikas Arusa Osa Suffolk Arusa. And now we turn to Lamachenam Abet and Zikas Nesua Osa Suffolk Nesua. So you know what? I think actually I need to give some additional background. So let me give this additional background. We are going to see that there is an argument about between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel about what is the halacha of a woman at the stage of erisin with respect to the property that she inherits. So Beis Shammai says that again we have a woman who has only done kedushin. She's not fully married. Now clearly, if she's fully married, everybody agrees that the husband has control over the whole situation, meaning she is not allowed to sell her property. And if she does sell her property or tries to sell her property, the full husband, is able to take it back. But when it comes to an arusa, when it comes to somebody who's just the first stage of marriage and she's still not fully married, she has not done nisuin. So in that situation, Beis Shammai says that she's able to freely sell her property. And so as a result, we are now going to derive from the situation of a woman who is an erisin or a woman who is a nisuin, who has done nisuin, we're going to derive those two situations into our Mishnah. So again, if a woman has only done erisin, well, if according to Beis Shammai, she has full control over her property. Well, certainly if she's a zika of an erisin, so she also has a full control over her property. After all, right? A zika erisin, that's what we say, osis suffix arusa. Somebody who only had erisin done, she is only a possible arusa. She's not, because of course the new husband has not decided whether or not to do yibum or chalitza, and so as a result, she has even more rights than a regular arusa. And so therefore, Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, by the way, says within arusa that in fact she's not allowed to sell her property lichatchila, but if she does so, b'diavad, it's okay. So as a result, here where she's not actually an arusa, but only a zika arusa, so we're going to say that she has even more rights, meaning that she can fully sell her inherited property. And then when it comes to a nisuin, so then Beis Shammai would say the following: the husband gets everything, and so as a result, here we're going to say that in fact because now both the husband, both the husband's heirs and the father have equal claims. So as a result, because they essentially have claims of uncertain claims, we're going to say divide the property. Okay, so that's similar to what we said with respect to two uncertain claims before. And so that's how Ula is now going to understand this explanation, now this Mishnah, and how come Beis Shammai effectively changes his position between the Reisha and the second case of our Mishnah. Well, one second, Zikas Arusa Osa Suffolk Arusa. So the Isal Kadaitak Vadai Arusa. Now it must be that Zika, that Ula is saying that the Zika of an Arusa, again, Zika meaning that the woman is now has a connection because maybe she's going to have Yibum done to her. This is Rachel in our named case. Again, Reuven was married to Rachel. Reuven dies. Rachel is now the surviving wife, and Reuven died without children. And Rachel now has a Zika relationship with Reuven's brothers. And so, but except that in this case, Reuven had only done Erisin with her. And so as a result, we're going to say Zika's Arusa must be only a Suffolk Arusa. And we don't treat her as like a full Arusa. Because if we say that we are going to treat this woman, Rachel, as if she was a Vadai Arusa, well, Modin Beis Hillel Shemokeres V'Nosenes V'Kayam. Beis Hillel would they agree that what she sells is a good sale? V'Hatnan Naflu Natla Nachasim Mishinis Arsa. We said that if she inherited property after becoming an Arusa, Beis Shammai Omrim Timkor. Beis Shammai says she has full rights to sell, but Beis Hillel Omrim Lo Timkor. They say that she can't sell lechatchila. But Elu ve'elu modem she'imachro benasna kayim. But if she did sell the di'eved, it would be a valid sale. So that would create an inconsistency within Beis Hillel, because in this Mishnah that's in Ksubos, we see that Beis Hillel says that she cannot sell as she wants, but here Beis Hillel says that she can sell. So it must be the Zika of an Arusa is not a Vadai Zika. It's not a Vadai Arusa. It's treated as a Suffolk Arusa. So okay. So Ela Shma Mina Zika's Arusa Osa Suffolk Arusa must be that a Zika of an Arusa is treated like a Suffolk Arusa. And how about the Zika's Nesua? Zika's Nesua Osa Suffolk Nesua. And similarly, the Zika of a Nesua is just a possible Nesua, because the Isal Kadaita Vade Nesua, because if you were to say that in fact she should be treated as a definite Nesua, Beis Shammai Omrim Yachaloku Yorshei Habal Im Yorshei Yahav. Beis Shammai says you split things. But we learned in a Mishnah, and this is a Mishnah in Ksubos, Naflu lo nechasim mishanisis. If she inherits property after she becomes married, elu ve'elu modim she'im makro benasna shabal motzim miyad alekuchos. The husband gets everything if she's fully married. So it can't be that we are treating her as fully married. Elashma mina zikas nesua osa steak nesua. So it must be the zika of a nesua. The one if after Nisuin was done, then Reuven dies. So should we treat Rachel as a Suffolk Nesua, not a Vade Nesua? And so that has explained both the Reisha and the middle case for our Mishnah, according to Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. And we can see that they are both consistent. So Amrle Rabba says to Ula, Adam Mivlig Begufa la'achar Misa. Why are you having them argue about what happens to her stuff after death? Have them argue about the right to the produce during her lifetime. And that would be the same argument. It would bring out the same points as we have here. So therefore, Rabbah offers a second explanation. Okay, and so as a result, Beis Shammai would say split. Beis Hillel would say keep everything where it is. And so again, we would have those same two opinions would be consistent. So you don't need to talk about a case where the woman dies. So I'm going to give you a different case, and make it where that has to be where the woman dies. So El Amaraba, really, we're talking about both cases where Reuven and Rachel were fully married. The Zika's Nesua, Osa Suffolk Nesua. And the situation is, we're going to say that the Zika of a Nesua is treated like a Suffolk Nesua. And why then in the Resha do we allow her to do anything? So Resha, De'i Kaima. And when it comes to the beginning, with the first case in our Mishnah, she's still alive. Havala ihi vadai inhu Suffolk. And so as a result, it's not the reason that she's allowed to do what she wants with the property is because the other people who have any claim against her have only an uncertain claim against her. And as we saw prior to this Mishnah in the Gemara, an uncertain claim cannot take away anything from a certain claim. An uncertain claim can't take anything out of the hands of a person who has a definite claim. So Seifa de Mesa, and then in the case where she died, halalu ba'an lirish v'halalu ba'an lirish. Now we have both of them coming to try and inherit v'yachaloku. And so as a result, Beis Shammai says they divide, and Beis Hillel says no. They're not going to divide. Everything is hamotzi mechaveru ala haraya. You have to, in order to take it away, you need to show your evidence, because it wasn't in a third party's possession. Where would you say yachloku? Where would Beis Hillel agree? Beis Hillel would agree if nobody had access, if nobody was holding the property, then he would agree with Beis Shammai that we say yachloku. All right. So Esvei Abaye. Abaye now is going to challenge this position of Rabbah, okay? And he's going to challenge from Mishnah. Beis Shammai ain't suffic motzi midei vadai. Is it really true that Beis Shammai says that an uncertain claim cannot take away from a person who has a definite claim? We have a Mishnah that seems to suggest otherwise. But Tanan nafal abayas alav ba'al aviv. If you have a house falling on Yaakov and Reuven, a father and son, alav al morishav, or upon Yaakov and somebody else who inherits him. V'hayu alav ksubas isha uvalcho, and against the son there were claims, either a ksuva or a creditor. So Yorshei ha'av omrim, the people who are the father's heirs, right? So the father's brothers, let's say, they all claim Habein Meis Rishon, V'achakach Meis Ha'ab. The son died first, and then the father died, and so we're going to take the father's estate. Uvalchov Omer. However, the creditor claims, whether that's the creditor or the wife, Ha'av Meis Rishon. No, the father died first, V'achakach Meis Habein, and then the son died. And so as a result, the son inherited the father and has a piece of that estate with which he can pay me, because presumably we're going to assume that the son had nothing to pay the debt other than what he would have inherited from the father. Well, Beis Shammai omrim yachloku. They split the money. They split the money that's in question. Ubeit Hillel omrim no. Nechasim b'chezkasan. Everything stays in the property of the person who possesses them. Meaning the father's heirs get to hold on to everything because it's in their possession. Well, 1 second. Here we have the father's heirs definitely inherit something, right? They're definitely actual heirs. But the Ka'asi Suffolk Umotzi Midei Vadai, and yet we see that Beis Shammai seems to say that that notwithstanding the fact that the creditors only have an uncertain claim, because their claim is based solely on the father dying first. They have an uncertain claim, and yet they were successful in taking away half the money. So Kasabre Beis Shammai. So doesn't that show that in fact Beis Shammai holds that an uncertain claim can take away from a definite claim? No, it does not in fact show that, and the Gemara explains Kasabre Beis Shammai shtar haome legavos kegavoi dummy. There's a principle that when you have a contract that is ready to be collected, a document that is ready to be collected, it's as if it was already collected. And so as a result, it is not an uncertain claim, but it's as if it's a definite claim. It's as if he's already holding the money that's associated with that claim. So imana umina temra. And what's the basis of saying that Shammai says that? Didan, because we learned in a Mishnah, mesu ba'leihen ad shalosh shasu. If you have a woman who was suspected of adultery, and now they were going to set her up to drink the sota waters, what's going to happen? And now the husband dies. Beis Shammai omrim notlos ksubasan ve'enan shosos. Not only does she not drink the water, but she even gets to collect the ksuba from her husband's estate. Ubeis Hillel omrim o shosos o lo notlos ksubasan. Either she drinks or she doesn't collect the ksuba. But 1 second. Oh, shosos, can Beis Hillel actually mean that she drinks? The Torah says that the man has to bring his wife, and now that the man has died, he cannot bring her. So as a result, she can't possibly drink. Ella mitok shelo shosos lo notlos ksubasan. Rather, Beis Hillel is saying because she can't drink, she does not get to collect her ksuba. So, all right, so we now understand Beis Hillel, but V'ha the suffix, this is a case of uncertainty. Suffix zanai, suffix lo zanai. Maybe she committed adultery, maybe she didn't. The ka'asi suffix umotzi midei badai. And yet, according to Beis Shammai, the woman is able to collect, even though she has only an uncertain claim, and she is claiming away from the husband's estate, which has a definite claim. So So we say that it must be that a contract that exists is as if it has already been collected. Now, why didn't, when Abaye tried to prove that Beis Shammai does not believe that wanted to try and prove that Shammai believes that a suffix can take away from a vadai, why didn't he tell us, ask the question from the case of the sota? So the answer is Dilma ksuba shaisa shining. Maybe the collecting of a ksuba is different. Mishum china, because we want to encourage marriage, and so as a result, we'll make it easier for a woman to collect her ksuba. The losve ksuba demas nisan, and so 1 second. Well, why didn't we talk about the ksuba of our Mishnah? Meaning, in our Mishnah, it seems like Beis Shammai's rule is that if the nesua awaiting yibum dies, right, then her father's heirs divide the ksuba with the yavam, right? If the woman if the widow is waiting for yibum, and her father, and now she dies, her father's heirs divide the ksuba with the yavam. So this is, here again, we have another situation where an uncertain is taking money away from somebody who's holding it. So why didn't Abaye use that? So lo pligi, Beis Shammai, in fact, don't argue with respect to the ksuba property, meaning we're going to change the way our Mishnah, we understood our Mishnah. In fact, you do not sum the ksuba with the other property. Rather, the ksuba stays with the husband's estate, and it is only the property that the woman has from her father's family that she inherited from her father. Only that property is what she gets, is what is going to get split between the father's heirs and the husband's heirs. So the low, 1 second, are you sure? It seems like our Mishnah suggests otherwise. V'hakatani mesa. What did our Mishnah say? It said that she died. What happens to the ksuba and the property that enter and leave with her? It says that the husband's heirs divide them with the father's heirs. And Beis Hillel says the property stays with whoever is holding them. So that makes it very clear. It seems very obvious that Beis Shammai is saying that the ksuba gets divided as well. So Hachikamar, no, we're rereading our Mishnah, and this is what it's saying. Mesa Maya Sebek with respect to the one who died, if she dies, what happens to her ksuba? Ushvaka. Then the Tana leaves that question and says, we're not going to answer that. And as far as the properties that go into the marriage and leave with her, they are where we are really only answering in our Mishnah what happens to the property that she brings to the marriage and that she takes out from the marriage. And if you actually read our Mishnah carefully, you can see that that's actually the intention. Because our Mishnah says that the husband's heirs divide with the father's heirs, meaning that what is it that the father's heirs are supposed to get? The father's heirs are supposed to get the property that the woman brings in. And so as a result, we're saying that the husband gets to a piece of what ordinarily would go to the father's heirs. Velogtani yorshei abim yorshei abal. But what we don't say is that the father's heirs get a piece of what is ordinarily going to the husband's heirs. And what would that be? That would be the ksuba. And so as a result, the father's heirs don't collect half of the ksuba, but rather they only split the property that is brought in. Shema mina. And so in fact, that is a reasonable understanding. And so even though when we read the Mishnah at the beginning of today's daf with the understanding that the father and the father's heirs and the husband's heirs split both the ksuva and the property that the woman brings into the marriage and that she takes out of the marriage, in fact, they only split the property that the woman brings into the marriage and she takes out of the marriage, and the property of the ksuba, that stays with the husband's heirs. And so with that, we've now presented two answers, and Abaye, who wasn't very happy with the second answer of Rabbah, is going to present his own answer tomorrow. And so stay tuned tomorrow to hear the third explanation of our Mishnah.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good day.
Thank you.
See
You too.
tomorrow.
Hold on just a second. I'm here.